Welcome to another edition of interaction and discussion about the films selected in the finally selected. And let me just begin with these words. If a people loses its arts and language, it is no longer a people. These are the words by Papisan Badar, a performer of Khoomii. And these words are attributed to him, and he is an integral part of the movie Journey into Khoomii, which we are going to discuss today. And let me introduce the very popular, I don't know, it's beyond words to describe him. We have got with us Mr. Rolf Kilius, who is a consultant of museums, exhibitions, and media. He's an exhibition curator. He's an oral historian. He's an ethnomusicologist. He's a master in sound and film production, editor, radio journalist. And if I keep telling about him, it will go, run into reams and reams of paper. So we are indeed delighted and privileged to have you with us. And he is a member of the council member of NIFI. So that way he is a part of the, he's an integral part of NIFI family also. So welcome Mr. Rolf Kilius to this, to the NIFI festival.
Thank you, dear Vijayan, for introducing me. I don't know, I'm too many words. I'm maybe one thing you forgot actually. I'm an old friend of Kerala. That's very important for me.
Yes, I was coming to that. Yes.
So that's very important.
Yes, I'll come to that definitely. And we have got my colleague, Mr. Siddharth is there, and Mr. Aruldev M.R is also there. He's a student of visual communication design, and he's from the Kerala Institute of Design. He's also an illustrator and photographer. So normally we rope in some students also into such, because they are the future flag bearers of our this culture and all that. So coming further back to Rolf, yes, he, as he mentioned, he has very deep association with Kerala. He has done extensive research and study on the Mappila Pattu tradition of Kerala. There's Arabana Mutta, Oppanagana, Kolkali, Daf Mutta, and the Mappila Pattu and all that. And not only that, he has been he has done immense research on the temple art forms of Kerala, the Chendamelam and other musical forms of traditions. And not only Kerala, and when it comes to, he has done some studies about the Baul Singing in West Bengal tradition, then Banni tradition in Kutch of the Gujarat state, and the devotional music of Odisha. Maybe Jayadeva's Ashtapadi and all that. In fact, he has been instrumental in digitizing and preserving so many of these valuable treasures which has been on the verge, some of which have been on the verge of extinction, and he has been preserving it for the posterity. And quickly coming to the film, Journey into Khoomii, and it's directed by J.F. Castrol, and it is an amazing film in the sense it chronicles and it records the very vibrant sort of form of throat singing, you can say, and whistling, and no wonder they're surprised that UNESCO has recognized it as an intangible, oral and intangible cultural heritage. So to speak more about the film and about what resonated in you after watching them, over to you, Rolf.
Yeah, yeah, you said it. I think it's a wonderful film. I really very much enjoyed it, watching it, and it's a very dense film, you know. So maybe first I look at it a little bit as a filmmaker myself. So I think I like very much this idea of a collage. So putting different parts together from different times and different episodes. And I think that's quite exciting, you know. So of course you had this main structure at the first time. I think it's about this tour in the western part of Switzerland, and in eastern part of eastern part of France, and where around 12 Khoomii singers and musicians were traveling to this part of the world, and they were introducing their music to the people there. And of course, all interactions were there. And of course, apart from the filmmaker, Geoffroy Castel, there's also a very important person, which is the main facilitator of this project. And his name is Johanni Curator, who is also an ethnomusicologist and a musician himself. And of course, I think we have also to mention his partner, if I may say, the short form Nomiko. She's appearing in the film, and I think she's much more than a translator in the film. You know, she was really very important. So I think that's very important to mention. I think it's first and foremost, it's a really exciting film for everybody who wants to know something about the people in, let's say, western part or southwestern part of Mongolia, and this wonderful Khoomii overtone singing style. And of course, it's much more. It's about the culture behind where the people come from this wonderful steppe and mountain area. People are originally herders, mainly herders, but of course nowadays you have also professional musicians and singers. I think that's a little glimpse in this this film. I think the film is about 1 hour 20 minutes or so, quite long for a documentary film. And but I think we learned a lot about this. And not only that, I think we go out of after the film and feel a sympathy for the people and for the musicians and singers. I think that's the most important thing, you know, that we come closer to this culture and understand the culture.
And I think in the course of the film, it's not that they depicted or they portrayed the singers, Khoomii singers or something. And he did some scientific investigation, scientific studies also. What are the impact it causes on the pharynx or the vocal cords while they do that also. Because that was a very novel approach, I felt. Your take on that?
Yeah, I think in the end of the film it was mentioned, you know, that we can wait for the results of this research. You know, I'm quite excited about that, and I think, of course, it was interesting how they scanned the vocal cords and putting this little sensors on the tongue, and how it is exactly produced. I think that's maybe something exciting. I think all of us, when we first, I remember many years back, I watched a performance here in London of Khoomii singers from Mongolia, and I couldn't believe actually the sounds come out of their mouth. We thought it comes from somewhere else, you know. But of course, I remember many years ago, I was driving a long distance and I was trying to practice this overtone singing. Meaning I use the stark, the drone voices, and suddenly, I think after about a couple of hours when you practice, you hear some overtones coming up, this high-pitched melody. Of course, I couldn't control it, but it came up, you know, so it's something natural in a way, you know. And of course, interesting is that these people have developed this and have refined it on a very high level, you know. And indeed, it was maybe in the past, it was only known, not only, but it was mainly known in Mongolia and the neighboring countries, but I think today it became really a kind of music around the world. People identify the music, and maybe even this music is a kind of access code to the tradition of this people, you know. So we learn about this people, and we want to know more about it. And that's, I think, that's the film is about that, you know. So
I felt like from most of it, as an artist also, I'm also an illustrator. So studying the physiology of the artists who were part of the tradition and who part of the film, it felt for me it felt like an uncanny feeling of how the physiology of an artist is being studied. And so how do you see the future to this? Like I have heard about how Einstein's brain is also had been studied. So like I'm just creating the links, you know. Yeah. So how do you feel like the future to this?
I think I'm not the right person to ask this question, because I really honestly cannot answer it. I think there's definitely a future. I think we want to know more about backgrounds, but I think as an ethnomusicologist, I'm very interested in how a certain music tradition has developed from the society, you know. What is the background in a society? So, for instance, in the film, it was mentioned in the past there were herders, and they were copying the sounds of nature. And I think that's something exciting, you know. And then also something important was that nowadays everything is drowned out through all this engine noise, helicopters and aeroplanes, and of course that the daily traffic, you know. Think about Kochi, or think about here in London, anywhere in the world. And I think we don't hear anything anymore, you know. And for me, as also somebody who has collected instruments for museums, I was always surprised how at the beginning the instruments were quite small and hardly low pitched, you know, in a way. With a low volume, but nowadays they have to be very loud to become bigger and bigger and bigger, because we have to do something against this noisy world. And I think that's something interesting. Maybe it's not exactly what you asked me, but it's something what I'm interested in. How?
Yeah, maybe, excuse me, maybe we have forgotten to enjoy the beauty of silence, if I may put it that way.
Yeah, silence, and also maybe listening to the nature, you know, to the wind,
yes,
to the nature as such, or seeing the mountains and the steppes, and I think a lot of music is modeled after that, you know. So I think it's also somewhere mentioned in the film that this whistling is imitating the wind, you know. So I think that's something exciting. And of course the animals were there in the past, you know. Nowadays we have only howling dogs in the cities, but and we have some foxes here, but otherwise and even we cannot hear them anymore, you know, because there's too much engine noise around, you know. And I think that's something interesting, that the people have connected to the nature, and a lot of wisdom has been lost already, you know. So that's something what I feel is important.
Yeah, that reminded me, maybe during my childhood and teenage, we used to whistle. You go to a friend's house, you wait outside, you give, I mean, there are 2-3 types of whistling. One, you place the fingers like this, then like this. But now there's no need, because you can WhatsApp messaging is the earlier. I mean, so maybe even they must have used this whistling or this particular sounds as a mode of communicating each other also.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I think, you know, and it's also communicating with each other. I think you can also, I think what was a little bit missing in the film is for what occasions are the songs performed. Of course, you can assume that some of the herders that sit there with their animals, and playing flutes, singing songs, or playing any string instruments. You can imagine that, but I think the people, they got together in their yurts in the evening, all the family. And what do? You don't have a mobile phone. You don't have even a radio. You don't have any recorded sound. You sing together and you perform music. You interact with each other, so you communicate with each other. And of course, that's completely gone. Nobody's, I don't think anybody sits together as a family in the evening and do music unless they are musicians, or of course, exceptionally, you will find this,
And in the course of the film, there is a mention or a dilemma whether this is whether it is proper to sell their art or to perform outside. So if I may reconnect with Kerala's Sanskrit theatre form of Kodiyatam, it used to be performed only within the temple precincts in the Kuttambalams. But then initially there was a hesitation of going out of the temples. So in the course of the film, they also have some hesitation whether it is proper for the Khoomii singers to go out and perform from outside there.
I think that's a very important thing. You're talking about the ethical values, and I was also, I had the chance in Kerala to be in. I was invited in a couple of secret rituals during the temple festivals, which were not supposed to be for the outsiders, but because of my contacts to the musicians, they trusted me to film things. But of course, I'm well aware how to use it. I was not necessarily putting it out somewhere, but I used it as a form of documentation. I think it's very, as a anthropologist or ethnomusicologist, I think it's very important that you talk to the people. It's very important that there's an interaction, that you trust, that they trust you, and the other side, that you work with them, that you don't do anything against their principles. If they say that's our secret heritage and we don't want to talk about that, you have to respect it. But of course, this could change in some time. It could change because people are concerned that if they keep it secret, it will just not survive, there will not be a place. And another issue is, you just talked about the professional musicians. Of course, in the past, it was obviously done, the music and the singing was done by the herders. So there was no such an issue, to put it on a professional level, because it was for themselves anyway, But nowadays, of course, some people earn money out of it, but also they earn money in order to sustain their music making, way of music making, and keep it in this way alive, So again, it's tricky, So. But of course, everything is nowadays commercialized. But I think we should be happy that you have commercial artists who are practicing art for the whole day, who have time to do it. And of course, they have to be paid as well.
Yes, in fact, I think we can, it's very clearly visible that all the Khoomii performers, they were happy that they got an opportunity of going out and performing, and that this particular art form is being digitalized, and that they are being handed over the discs, and that they are able to see it and all that. So some traditional thinking must have maybe prompted them to, hesitate in the beginning, but ultimately I think they have accepted it and with wholeheartedly, and that's very good thing for the art also, and the form of singing also.
Something that must be said at this point is the fact that somebody makes a mention of it, that they generally sing out in the open, perhaps, but these music stages in Europe, in Switzerland, they're like made for music. It would have been a powerful feeling for them to sit in a group and perform there and maybe hear their own voice and being appreciated by people. It would have been transformative, maybe, in a sense, of such appreciation at a global scale. So it's not just music, it's also the artists that are being honored when they get to do it commercially.
Yeah, and of course, I think if I remember it, at the beginning, one performer said there should be a personal secret in the practice to Khoomii. He said this right at the beginning. Oh, we thought we just come for the performance. I think that's shows a little bit the conflict. At least one was thinking about that, you know. So, but of course, they also perform in Ulaanbaatar or in other parts in other parts of Mongolia, and of course, some. I think it was mentioned in the film. You have herders, which are not necessarily professional, and you have professional singers. I think they came together, and maybe it was also a learning process. So all learn from each other, you know. So, and of course, it was clear through the person of Johanni Kürte. I think he was a kind of translator of the art and the culture to the people. And what was shown about him, he tried to introduce them in a proper way as human beings, not as a kind of some clowns on a stage or something, but as human beings, as performers, and to be taken seriously. And you could see at the end of the performance, they got standing ovations, and there was really an appreciation of this art form. So I think that's, I think it was balm to my heart, at least.
Yes, we all should be grateful to Johanni and Nomindari for their wonderful gesture and effort. And it's not only that they recorded them or they gave some concerts and all that, and then just left them. No, they remembered them, they went back to them, handed over the DVDs and all that. And also, very importantly, he distributed the profits that they generated out by selling those discs. That's a very important gesture, I thought.
Yeah, I think, yeah, but of course, to be honest, there is not a big profit nowadays in any CD or DVD. But I think the gesture to go to the people, clearly travel through the steps to the this huge country of Mongolia and to visit the people, you know, I think that was a very important gesture, you know, to go back to them and say, thank you very much for coming over. And of course, they also invited them to perform in Europe. I think that's definitely something. That's a big effort, I can tell you. It's really, yeah, I think that's something. But I think usually it should be like this. When you work with people from a different part of the world, you should stay in contact with them and should develop the relationship further, you know, to mutual benefit. You cannot just say, oh, come over and perform, and that's it, you know, and then you send them back, you know. So I think it was a nice project.
Rolf, yes. Like as a person who have traveled India and studied a lot of art forms here, so what all things you think that could promote these kinds of artists better? Like you said about how CDs or DVDs like didn't do much good, but like what do you suggest as like something as to how to promote these kinds of artists?
That's a very good question. Very good. I think we should discuss this together, you know, so that's a difficult question also, you know. I still believe having an album is something important. Album means you have a structure of a performance like a presentation. You have a written text, you have credits. It's something nice. How you produce an album on a CD in a traditional form, or nowadays you produce again records, vinyl records, or in a DVD. But of course, I ask you all who has still a DVD and a CD player at home. I'm sure Vijayan and I, we have it, but I'm not sure about you both. And of course, it's. I have just yesterday I saw a full concert on YouTube of a band I'm interested in, and I put a earmark for myself. I will watch it. I think YouTube is definitely a possibility. And when you go to Mongolia, I think people, they listen to YouTube stuff, you know. But of course, YouTube is full of not only the quality stuff, it's also everything else is also there, you know. So it's very difficult to make a point that is a quality work and all this. I think, yeah, and of course, I think performances in different countries are definitely a way to do this, but it's very, very difficult. And nowadays, for instance, in the UK, it's very difficult to invite foreign artists. You need all kinds of things to consider, and as soon as they perform, you need working visas and all this. It's a science for itself, you know. And as somebody who works in music or is a researcher, I think it's very difficult to put up such a tour. But of course, we can recommend to people to do such a tour. And of course, we have your film festival. That's a wonderful tool to promote something, and I think that's hopefully a lot of people will watch it.
Yeah, that reminded me, Rolf. See, to be frank enough, there is a confusion even in our minds as to is there a real distinction between performing art, traditional or nomadic art forms, ritualistic art forms, or folk art forms? So how do you, can you share your vast experience and how to distinguish, or is there a distinction, I mean, in between these?
Yeah, another great question. we can discuss the next hours about that. Yeah, I think when I don't know, when I in the 90s, when I recorded music in different parts of India, I saw like dances of the Adivasi community. I saw them sometimes performed in some hotels in a very, very disgusting way. You know, they were just, or let's do some tribal dance or something like this, you know, and everybody just came in without any context and no respect to the people, as it is till today in many parts of India, you know, that people have no respect from the tradition of Adivasi people. But I think instead of having I call it a tourist stage, what I just described, but instead of a tourist stage, I think we should have an art stage, which is something that we can preserve certain ritualistic styles to put them on an art stage, unless they're still performed in a ritualistic context. Like take Teyam. Of course, it's very difficult to bring this on an art stage, you know, but of course, it's still a ritualistic art form in Kerala. And I think either it can be preserved in the ritualistic context, so when you have the audience, when you have the performance spaces, the people. But if not, I think you have to think about how to develop it further, you know, to put it on an art stage like you have it in Kathakali achieved, you know. But of course, Kathakali is something completely different than Teyam, you know, but still there's a connection, of course. So that's a short answer. It's a very difficult question. It's a very difficult question, you know. And maybe to go a little bit further, I worked with one resort in Assam many years back. They invited me to work with the tea communities, to invite them to perform in their space. And so I suggested to them, okay, invite them, but first and foremost, introduce them properly, or let them themselves introduce themselves before you let them perform. That there's a context, you know, who are these people, how do they live, and so it's of course the tea the tea traditions, the tea musical traditions are very interesting, but you have to see the background, how did the tea communities came to Assam in the first place. They were brought by force by the then British Empire to Assam from the tribal areas in Jharkhand and some other parts of Bihar.
Yes, of course, when they are performed in such a alien ambience, so to say, it definitely takes the sheen out of the hurt, and it loses, the art form loses its hurt and soul, definitely. But still, is there a need for this compartmentalization? That's what basically was just like a folk art and classical art form, and because art form is art form, and the most, more often than not, the performers are common folks.
I think that's, again, it's all the terms you just mentioned are colonial terms. They come, the high art and the low art and all this stuff, and classical. The word classical comes from the Western classical music and was nicely taken over in India for the North, for the Hindustani music and for the Carnatic music, and of course, what all the other music cultures in India, is Kshetram Vadyam, is it not a classical art? I met people in Kerala, they said, no, it's not, it's a folk art, but it's not. It's clearly, you have professional musicians, it's very ritualized, so you have a certain a repertoire, and of course you have the audience, it's properly performed in a proper context, of course it's also classical in a way, but I think we shouldn't give too much importance to these terms, classical, folk and stuff like this. There's only good and bad art, and but anyway, I think every art has its importance in a certain context,
Yes, and another aspect.
I have just seen a chat. Tara Douglas.
Yeah.
She was.
Yes, exactly. I was coming to that only. Please. Yeah.
She was just saying that the best way to promote artists is to fund them. Yes, of course. That's. I think Kshetram Vadyam, for instance, is very well funded in Kerala. So I didn't think in the 90s it survived so well, but there are many smaller art forms in Kerala. They are not funded so well. They are. I think it's important that you look at the whole spectrum of art forms, and think about art forms who have no funding at all, and maybe give some importance on that.
But in the age of Netflix and in the age of YouTube and Instagram, we are bombarded with so much entertainment that we no longer look to these traditional artists for entertainment. And then the ones who choose to continue down the path, they sort of take on a responsibility and a burden. So who funds these people then? Is it the responsibility of a few people who are still, who think that the folk art should be kept alive? Is it the responsibility of perhaps the state, because they too make use of all of this as part of their tourism? And this is a very difficult question that we are trying to understand as we move forward with our festival. For example, I should mention this. There is another movie in our competition section which is about a girl. She is the only surviving practitioner of an art form. Now, her grandmother has been awarded the highest award an artist can get, as Padma Shri. But the girl suffers with her daily life. And it is not that we are not aware of her condition. And it is, in spite of it, there is only very little that the state is doing for them, or the people of that locality are doing for them. So the question really is, who funds them, or who should be funding them? can we? Is there a successful model, perhaps somewhere else abroad? Have you seen something that works in your travels, Rolf?
I think it's very difficult to say this. I think in Europe, for instance, you have definitely certain art centers and performance spaces which are government funded, who have a fund or from the lottery fund, and there, of course, they invite certain artists, you know. But even there, not all artists are invited. There are always artists who are not invited. I think it's foremost on cultural organization to promote the artists, you know, to bring it to the limelight that these are the artists who are somehow suffering, you know, they have no voice themselves. So we have to promote them, you know. I think foremost is to, maybe we can go and interview them. We take little short films of them, and we can also put it in the context, you know. And I think an organization like Wiley, I think it's very much poised to highlight certain art forms. I know that Wiley always invites local artists to perform in their places, and then they film them and put the films online, you know, in order to promote them. I think that's a very good initiative, you know. It's not even funded from anywhere. It's just supported by local people, you know. So we cannot just sit back and wait of all this government funding, you know, because the government always puts tendency is the government always puts the money where the money already is, you know. They don't put necessarily the money in some local artists who they don't think is anyway important, you know.
If I can just come in,
For instance, in 97, I had the chance to record somebody called Nayalatarama Puduval.
Nayalatarama Puduval, Ashtapadi singer. Yes,
Ashtapadi singer. And yes. I didn't know at the time. I stayed in his house a whole day and recorded the whole day, and he was very eager to tell me lots of things. And then 3 days later, there was a big picture in Matrabhumi and of him, and he died for natural reasons, you know. So it was the last performance of him. And in this last performance, he told me, you know, actually, people always came to take something and take it away, you know, but nothing ever came back to me, you know. So he was not well supported, but of course he was an amazing singer, you know. So that's and nowadays maybe we slowly understand, oh wow, this Sopanam Sangitam is something important, you know. There's not only 2 or 3 singers, maybe you have 20 or 30 in Kerala, you know.
Yeah, incidentally, I would like to add that there's Nyaralatha Rama Poduval's son. He Hari Govindan, Nyaralatha Hari Govindan, he wanted to build a memorial for Rama Poduval, but there was no funding. Ultimately, he told, yes, he put the Itakya being used by Rama Poduval on public auction, and it created a furor. Then only people realized, because till then nobody was giving any damn attention to that. But all said and done, still, for an art form like Kudiyattam, it requires 10 to 15 years of rigorous practice. And after undergoing such dedicated, devoted practice, and then side by side, you can't ignore the studies also. Formal schooling or college studies they have to do, and after doing all that, I mean, unless and until they get enough money for their sustenance, how do you attract them? Of course, now there is a system of funding. There's Sangeet Natak Academy. They are providing some monthly allowances to those recognized institutions and all that. But all said and done, the only way of continuing this thing is ensuring proper funding. Maybe in the olden times, the kings, they provided patronage, or the temples, they set apart some land for the artists near their precincts or in the immediate neighborhood, so that they can come and perform.
I still think the most important thing is the respect to these
Yes.
artists. That's the foremost important thing, that the society gives respect to all kinds of artists, independent whatever caste background they have, you know. So, and of course, a temple in Kerala, the temple in Kerala are extremely rich. I'm not sure what support they give to this kind of artist on the fringes, you know. So I think that there should be also a discussion about that, you know. Maybe there would be a chance to, you know, Pulavan Pattu, they always perform in temples, but they are not regarded as temple musician as such, you know, not like the gender Melam performances or Panchavatyam performances. There's a difference, you know. I think that's the respect is the most important thing. And then I think the funding is there, the money is there. It's not an issue, you know. But of course, the money, as I said before, it goes where the money already is, you know. But I think the respect of this artist is very important. And I think you do a very important step with this film festival. And of course, Wiley as such does a very important work to promote the local artists, you know. So when in 2019, that was my last visit in Kerala, I couldn't come for obvious reasons. Since we had Wiley artists, this bamboo artists, we brought them together with some of the Mappila artists, you know, for the first time, you know. I think it's the respect and then to use all this social network possibilities we have to promote the artist, all of them, you know. And we shouldn't think about what is their social background or religious background or anything like this. We should treat them at the same level, you know. That's my wish.
Like in the film itself, we can see a long journey that they took from how different generations, from the ones who are learning it, from the ones who have learned and mastered it. The years of journey which is being portrayed in the documentary, we could see how, like even like you itself said, how long a documentary it is, considering it's a documentary. So so this much of long journey people take in order to master something which they know is like not properly given importance or respected in a society. So this, what do you think, like the learning of ethnic music, like how is it important? Like in the film itself, we can see different generations learning it.
I think again, foremost, I wouldn't say there's there shouldn't be any professional consideration. I think there should be possibilities in a society that young children could learn, participate in music making, in instrument playing, in theater, in dance, and all this, you know. And of course, you need to pay the instructors or the teachers, you know. But I think young people should get involved just for fun, you know. That should, because it's exciting when kids come together and youngsters as well play together. And I think that's a starting point, you know. Maybe it should be, and maybe school to a certain degree, it's sometimes very much structured in the school, you know. But I think you should have this afternoon classes, you know, or this kind of hobby classes, and where young kids are interested in these traditional art forms as well, you know, and teach them. And of course, everybody should be allowed to come in.
In this particular aspect, see, there is an interest among the parents because there are some school youth, festivals conducted as part of this thing. But there is a danger also, because as you rightly mentioned, the core thing which should be focused is to develop and respect and interest in that particular art form. But here what happens is they just want to prepare a mini capsule, a dance item for 5 minutes or something, so that they can contest in a particular dance item and then secure some certificate or prize. That because again it loses the the spontaneity or the involvement. It's your motive is something else, not to develop any sincerity or the respect towards that particular art form.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely right. Yeah.
So, well, our time's also coming to a close. I wanted to say that while we were talking about how artists have suffered during the pandemic and how artists have generally been looked down upon or not respected or not given the right accord, not accorded the proper stature, we can definitely say that the film is a shining path. How Yohani and his partner, how they treat these filmmakers, the reverence that they're given, and the care that they are. I mean, in their presence, these people almost stop moving. You can physically feel how much they respect and love them, and that doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, so the film is a shining example of how artists should be treated, perhaps. And I encourage everybody to go have a look at the film. It's not just a visual treat, not just a auditory treat. It is also a heartwarming story of people getting connected, people from across borders connecting. And yeah, please, Rolf.
Yeah, and in addition, I think what I also like the way the filmmaker comes in. He's clearly not from this background, you know. He's quite a well-known documentary filmmaker. He has done some completely other films, but I think he had time to shoot this film, and I think that's very important. I just came back from Kosovo, where I filmed with a performance artist it's a small country in Eastern Europe, and we had 3 weeks time, and for 3 weeks we went around and we're looking at places, interacting with people. I think it's the most important thing is for a filmmaker that you invest in time. You know, you can just turn up with a film crew in 1 day and then you do a shot and then you have something. I think it's very much that you follow the people to interact with them. And you could see in the film, you had so many bits in the film, you know, when you analyze it a bit. It took a long time to be there in all kind of circumstances, you know, and I think that's something special, you know. They recorded in France and Switzerland, but also in Mongolia, in the Covent Court region. I think that's something important, that a filmmaker has time, and then you get involved in that, and maybe therefore it became a good film as well.
Yes. Castell is a patient filmmaker, and almost all of his projects are of this nature. He's a visual ethnographer. He spends his time. He's not in a hurry. Nowhere is he in a hurry. I mean, we can see that in the shots also. He holds his shots. We see people sleeping, and we can feel them sleep because he lets us see that the person is taking rest. Rest translates as rest for the viewer as well. And I'm just extremely glad to have seen the movie, and it's touched me a lot. And with those words, I want to conclude the session for today. I want to thank Aruldev for coming. Arul, thank you for coming, and thank you for being part of this.
The pleasure's all mine. It's a huge thing to be part of IFI.
Yes, and let's also, as the movie has been done, dedicated to that puppies and rider.
Yes, the movie is dedicated to Partisan brother, and well, he has been used in the
film
posters
been
as well.
done?
Our
Let's
poster
keep
also,
our discussion also in memory of Partisan Radar.
yes, and our poster is also
Yes.
Partisan brother. So if you look at the film poster, we have
Exactly.
we are sort of echoing the feelings of the director here, filmmaker.
Yes, yes. Much deserved one. Yes.
And thank you, Rolf. Thank you, Rolf. Vijay, if you could conclude. No, his internet seems to have some issue. Rolf, thank you so much for coming. We know that we called you in a very short notice, but then it is our luck that we have another ethnomusicologist to sit with us and to talk about it with such short notice. Today's conversation was fantastic. Thank you for engaging all of us. Thank you for engaging our audience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you for attending the session.